My girlfriend is calling me close-minded for not wanting to bring in other men and women into our bedroom, so now I'm thinking about closing the doors on our relationship. Posted by you/OK_dress5215. I, 27M, have been dating Lucy, 27F, for 10 months now. Lucy is bisexual and has always been open with me about her kinks and fantasies, and bringing in other people, MMF, MFF, MMFF, and so on, features high on her list. I'm pretty vanilla by comparison. I never guilt-tripped or shamed her when she opened up to me about these, but I always made it clear to Lucy that they were a bit beyond what I could provide, and that, in particular, I would never be comfortable bringing another man into the equation. About 6 months into the relationship, Lucy suggested that we have an MFF three-way with another woman and that she would be happy to arrange it. I was a little apprehensive about this initially, as I didn't want it to be used against me as a bargaining chip further down the line, so I constantly checked in with Lucy, asking if she was sure it was something she wanted and that we would be doing together. Not long after the three-way took place, Lucy suggested that we visit a garden party together, which we did, and at which we only played with each other. She also suggested reaching out and meeting other couples involved in the scene. My understanding was that we would be befriending couples who were also dipping their toes into garden parties and similar events, so we could have people to accompany us to these kinds of gatherings as friends. We matched with another couple on an app and met up with them a few times for drinks. Earlier tonight, Lucy called me and hit me with a curveball. She said that for the past few months, she had been feeling unsatisfied and unenthused by our bedroom life. This really caught me off guard. I knew that Lucy was more adventurous, and I thought I had been doing a decent job of accommodating this, the MFF three-way, the sex party, and talking to another couple. I was hurt by this revelation, but I did my best to find out from Lucy what she felt was lacking and what we could do to fix things. After a bit of probing, it became apparent that she wanted us to experiment with MMFF non-monogamy, flirting with another couple, playing truth or dare type games with them, ideally some form of swapping, etc. All things that would make me uncomfortable and which I just can't ever see myself doing, yet are extremely important to Lucy. I asked Lucy if there was anything else we could try in order to meet in the middle. The subject of toys came up, but it was pretty apparent this was just a sideshow. Lucy got a bit irritated with me at one point, insinuating that I wasn't being open-minded enough, asking how I knew I wouldn't be into what she was suggesting, and saying the situation was unfair because I wasn't willing to compromise, even though she is the one instigating all of this while fully aware of my boundaries. After a bit of back and forth, it eventually dawned on both of us that we were staring at the end of the relationship. I told Lucy I was hurt by the revelation but that I was still thankful she spoke up, and that she needs to do right by herself and not compromise on something if it's important to her. At this point, Lucy became tearful, asking if this was the end, saying this wasn't how she expected the conversation to go, and so on. We ended up saying goodnight after promising we'd have another chat about it later. I'm writing this now, having just gotten off the phone with her. I'm pretty gutted. Being told out of the blue that your partner has been unsatisfied and unexcited isn't a particularly great thing to hear. I think this is probably the end for Lucy and me, as I don't see myself ever entertaining the scenario she wants us to partake in, and even if she agreed to bury it, there would be the risk of this coming up again later. Since I started writing this, Lucy has been texting me, pleading with me to compromise. I am trying my best to explain to her that the boundaries she's asking me to compromise on are hard ones and would very likely lead to me getting hurt, but the topic of compromise keeps coming up. I'm not sure what to do, and I would appreciate any advice on how to navigate this and if things might possibly be salvaged without major boundaries being crossed. Thanks. Commenter. What's the compromise between monogamy and non-monogamy? There isn't one. You can't have half monogamy. It's all or nothing. Update 2 weeks later. A few weeks ago, I posted in another sub about a situation with my girlfriend, Lucy, nudging me to try forms of non-monogamy that I wasn't comfortable with and claiming I needed to compromise when I pushed back. The consensus from the comments on my post was that the relationship needed to end, as she and I were clearly intimately incompatible. But deep down, I was adamant that things could somehow be salvaged. Not long after our initial conversation, I explained to Lucy why her actions were wrong, pushing against my boundaries despite my repeatedly saying no, and she apologized to me. She suggested that we go away and write lists of activities that we would or wouldn't be comfortable engaging in, to see where we could find common ground or meet each other in the middle. It seemed reasonable. The other day, we sent each other our lists. Lucy was clearly disappointed with mine, as I more or less ruled out partaking in all of the ethical non-monogamy activities she suggested. I made it clear that I was willing to engage in the monogamous activities from her list that she enjoyed, like toys, but that didn't seem to really cut it for her. It is what it is what she said on the phone with a sigh. Her tone was clearly one of disappointment. I'm the one who's losing out here. You get to keep everything you want to do, but I don't really get anything. It's fine though, it is what it is. I can just suppress my desires and keep them in my head. I really disliked her insinuation that I was being obtuse or selfish for not being willing to compromise on my boundaries. I asked why my willingness to try the monogamous activities she outlined didn't seem to count as meeting her in the middle. It's got to be spontaneous, and I want my partner to enjoy it too, she said, which struck me as odd. I can't just snap my fingers and suddenly change my enjoyment of or attitude towards a particular intimate activity. I explained to Lucy that she was the one who, a few weeks ago, told me with some pretty stinging words that our bedroom life was unexciting and unsatisfying for her. Even after our list comparison exercise, the options for fixing this were clearly quite limited, despite my willingness to try certain, monogamous, things. I told her that now I have all these ominous thoughts swirling in my mind, like, is my partner ever going to be intimately satisfied by me? Is she going to end up resenting or cheating on me? I said that some reassurance that these fears were misplaced or that we could work through this would really help me. She immediately clapped back with, well, what about me? What about all the things I'm having to give up? That really got to me, and it reminded me of our previous conversation where she had basically shown no regard for my feelings with her constant nudging against my boundaries. I felt myself getting angry and knew a shouting match would only make things worse, so I abruptly said goodnight and hung up on her. Before I went to bed, she sent a barrage of texts, explaining that she was upset by the situation and that she wanted me to feel more remorseful because of all the things she now has to suppress and keep in her imagination. She also expressed that she felt unappreciated for having to bury her intimate desires for the sake of the relationship. This sat really uncomfortably with me. Why on earth would someone need to feel remorseful for not wanting to risk their own mental well-being just so their partner can feel intimately satisfied? That I need to appreciate her for the horrible anxiety I now feel about the relationship? If Lucy and I were in a dead bedroom or if I were completely closed off to trying new things, I would understand, but not wanting to take part in ethical non-monogamy? I had already told her that I was sorry she felt like she was losing out, but insinuating that upholding my intimate boundaries is something I need to show remorse for is honestly pretty horrible. My head is all over the place. I, perhaps naively, hoped that things between her and me could be salvaged by comparing our respective lists and working with the overlap, but if anything, it's just made it even more apparent that we are incompatible. Frankly, her way of handling the whole situation has really upset me. I feel like, as in my last post, she has no real regard for my feelings and is just angling for the outcome she wants, this time with lousy attempts at guilt tripping. I don't think I can ignore the writing on the wall this time. I care about Lucy a lot, but I hate how she keeps pushing and breaking me down like this, and her general lack of respect for my feelings and for me as a person. Commenter. She's trying to manipulate you into getting what she wants. This is a huge red flag to part ways. She's made it clear that she wants this regardless of your feelings, and her holding back is framed as some kind of favor to you. All it would take is one nasty fight, and she could easily give in to temptation. Whether she tells you or not is debatable, but it's likely to happen. Her mindset isn't on making a monogamous relationship work, she's more interested in exploring, using you as a safety net. Spare yourself further pain and heartbreak. Ops response. To add a bit of context, Lucy is really interested in playing with other couples in an MMFF type setting. I am not, and when explaining this to me, she was adamant that it was something she only wanted us to do as a couple. Now, I obviously don't want to explore MMFF, but I doubt this is a pretext for her going behind my back and being unfaithful. Famous last words, I know. That said, the damage has obviously been done. After multiple conversations with her, it's apparent that our bedroom life is always going to be unexciting and unsatisfying for her unless I capitulate on this, and I don't want to be in a relationship where my partner makes it clear our intimate life is something they're settling for, not to mention expecting me to somehow be grateful or apologetic for this. Second update 1 day later. Lucy and I have broken up. I broke the news to her yesterday, first via text. I initially told her that we needed to talk on the phone, but she insisted that if it was to break up, I should just tell her over text, and then confirmed it on the phone. She was super tearful and kept insisting that this was all a giant misunderstanding, that she was sorry for how she had behaved and that she would never hurt me, and that she was happy in our relationship. It was really hard hearing her so upset, but I stood my ground. To be honest, I felt like she was backpedaling on things she had said earlier and downplaying how important the non-monogamous activities she wanted to try are. They are things she had expressed interest in repeatedly very early on, and they can't be dismissed as passing fancies. I told her I appreciated her apologizing, but the damage was done. I can't be in a relationship with someone I'm clearly intimately incompatible with no real chance of fixing it. This was absolutely for the best, but it still hurts. Lucy and I are giving each other some space. We had an upcoming trip together, and I have a few of her things at my place, so we will have to meet up eventually to sort a few things out and maybe clear the air. I'll need to be strong and make sure I don't cave in. Thank you, r/offmachist, for hearing me out and advising me. It means a lot.